Yo, you're watching the Screaming Fish here, people, and once again, I'm here for yet another video for you guys. And before I get that video started, I would just like to apologise for the lack of content for the past 2 weeks. I've been caught up on homework and that, and I ended up real sick on one of those weekends, so yeah, not exactly my fault, but yeah. So, as you can tell by the title of this video, we are going to be talking about a movie called Moana from, you guessed it, Disney, from directors John Musker, and Ron Clements. So, yeah, again, apologies for the lack of video content for the past 2 weeks. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get into my review of Moana. I know this is a late review, but I really wanted to get my thoughts on this movie out there because I recently saw this movie in the local cinema, and when I came out of this movie, I immediately regretted not seeing this movie when it first came out. Moana is an incredible movie. I had an absolute blast watching this movie. It took me back to the old days of Disney around the time I first saw The Lion King. But we're not here to talk about The Lion King, obviously. We're here to talk about Moana. So, as these reviews go, we'll start off with the good parts of this movie first. The first thing I really want to talk about this film is the animation. The animation in Moana is gorgeous. It downright blew me away how close to photorealistic the environments, the ocean, and even the characters were. After watching this movie twice, I still cannot think of a single scene where I thought the animation looked flawed. It was beautiful to look at. I also really gotta say, there are some pretty flippin' awesome action sequences in this movie. In particular, the action sequences set in the ocean. They had a surprisingly realistic feel to them, which did bring some tension to the mix, which I thought worked really well in the film's favour. And they also made for some good comedy when it was needed, which I will talk more about later. The musical numbers in this movie, I really have to say, are some of the best I've heard in years. Not just from Disney, but really in general. There are at least 4 songs in this movie that I strongly believe will become the next Let It Go, in terms of popularity. The lyrics feel original and the tunes just feel great to listen to. While a few songs are repeated once or twice, it never became tiresome, boring, or repetitive, not just because of how well timed they were, but because of their memorability and the actors that sing these songs, who do it really well, I might add. And speaking of the actors, Dwayne Johnson is fantastic as the demigod Maui. His voice performance was really good, and he had the most of the film's best comedic lines, and I must admit, the most memorable musical number in the movie. Maui also makes for a really interesting and likable character. I really liked his tattoos that had a mind of their own. I just thought that was really cool, and it was well animated. I really got to admit, the performance was so good that I forgot I was watching an animated character being voiced by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He just disappeared into this character. That's how good the performance was. And I apologize if I pronounce his next name wrong. Olii Kravaloa. I apologize if I pronounce that wrong, seriously. She absolutely steals the show as the titled character Moana. Her performance was so strong throughout this movie. The character of Moana just has a really great level of charm and independence that I feel really makes her stand out when compared to other Disney princesses. And the voice performance in general was truly amazing. I cannot wait to see her in future movies or whatever she has coming up. I have to say, a comedic standout for me personally was the chicken called Hey Hey, who is somehow voiced by Alan Tudyk according to Google. I find that very hard to believe, but oh well. That chicken made for some great comedy and had me laughing quite a bit at the jokes. In fact, that's another pro for this movie. This is a really funny movie, and almost every single joke had me laughing my spagball off. Yes, I just said that. So now let's talk about someone called Jermaine Clement, who voices Tamatoa, a monster from the realm of monsters. He gave a phenomenal voice performance that was suitably over the top, really funny, and by far had the absolute best scene in this entire film. I'm not being over the top with my praise here. I actually believe that. And that's all I'm going to say about that without giving away spoilers, because his appearance is brief in this movie, but it was truly amazing. I also found the story of this film to be really engaging and fun to sit through. The film perfectly establishes who these characters are, their backstories and motives, not to mention the story for this movie never at all felt predictable or repetitive. You see, one of the reasons I really didn't like Frozen was because up until the last 20 to 30 minutes of the film, it was just too predictable. You could see the next chain of events and twists that would unfold later in the film from a mile away, and at times it felt really repetitive. Moana to me doesn't have that problem. The story was filled with interesting concepts and plot elements that I think really add to the film's memorability, and those twists I think were really effective, because there is actually one twist in this movie that I really did not see coming, and it caught me completely off guard, and it actually did blow me away. I also really like the culture this film was based on. Not only was it interesting and cool to see myths and legends from that culture told in this movie, but it also just made it unique and very different to other Disney movies, which ironically is something I would praise The Lion King for. I will admit, though, the only real gripe I have with this film is that sometimes a really serious moment will happen in a movie that establishes something about a particular character, and then the next scene comes up and that character would be doing something that pretty much contradicts their motives in that scene, and it never gets explained. To put it into a form that's slightly easier to understand, there are moments where you think, why would that character do that? But overall, as a movie on the whole, Moana is an amazing experience with great characters, brilliantly written and memorable songs, and beautiful animation. I seriously recommend you check this movie out, guys. I promise you it will be one heck of a fun time. So guys, those were my thoughts on Moana. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and follow me on Facebook and Instagram, obviously. And what did you think of Moana? Have you seen it? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and I will indeed see you in the next one, guys. And I'll see you later.